Your registration is expired.
Where did she go?
What? What's wrong with you?
In our number 10 spot. At first, this photo just looks like a silly good time between two boys, but what happens next is when it gets kind of crazy. The two in the photo are brothers, Michael and Sean McQuilkin, and it is from August 20th, 1975, when they were at Morro Rock in Sequoia National Park in California. The photo was taken by their sister Mary after they all thought that their hair standing up was absolutely hilarious and decided to snap a few photos to remember the moment. Well, they surely will never forget it, because just a few moments after this photo was taken, they were actually struck by lightning. One of the brothers said that he raised his hand into the air and that the ring he had on was buzzing, and then suddenly they were all on the ground and smoke was pouring out of Sean's back. The good news is that they all survived the lightning that day, but I bet it certainly wasn't the day that they had planned. In our number 9 spot, this photo was taken by David Seymour in 1948. This photo was taken in Warsaw, and the child in the photo is named Tereska, who was in a home for emotionally disturbed children after being raised in a concentration camp. The drawing on the blackboard is what she drew when the children were asked to draw home. While it is obviously common for children to have indistinguishable drawings, her backstory and the look in her eyes really tell a story. I hope she was able to grow and overcome some of the horrible things that she had been put through. I really wish I could know exactly what she was trying to draw and depict. In our number 8 spot, this is a photo from 1991 and is of Rajiv Gandhi, who is the 6th Prime Minister of India. He took office after his mother had been assassinated and was the youngest Prime Minister at only 40 years old. This photo was taken by a 21-year-old local photographer named Haribabu, but little did everyone know, this would be the last photo he took and the last photo ever taken of Rajiv. Moments after this photo was taken, the woman in the bottom left corner with the orange flowers in her hair approached Rajiv, and when she bent down to touch his feet, she detonated a belt of explosives that she had on under her dress. This explosion ended up killing them all and around 13 other people. Haribabu's camera ended up staying intact throughout the blast, and this is how we were able to retrieve this photo. Coming in at number 7. This photo carries quite the backstory. This photo is of Violet Spears, who was born in Elgin, Scotland in 1839. She was married at 15, and by the time she was 22, she had 4 children. At 33, her husband ended up passing away due to a hunting accident, and Violet then packed up her and the kids and went to her sister's, where they all remained for 2 years. After these 2 years, Violet just disappeared from her sisters, leaving all of her children behind. No one heard from her for a year after she left, but money began to be sent to them monthly. In 1876, a medium and hypnotist named Madame Violet began to gain popularity in Edinburgh. She had a small following at the time that she called her Hive. Slowly her seances began to get more elaborate and outrageous, and she slowly began to ask clients to donate small bits of blood, saying that it helped her connect to the spirits. She would actually drink the blood given to her, and she has been quoted saying that this element returned to me had been missing my whole life. Eventually her hive grew, and they all ended up living together and would only come out at night. They would attract and convince men and women, usually with the help of drugs and alcohol, to donate a bit of blood, and most often would convince these people to leave their lives to come and join the hive. The hive continued to grow for the coming decade, but when the son of a prominent councilman joined the hive and ended up developing an infection from the bloodletting and actually died, the hive was condemned and they ended up being disbanded. Madame Violet ended up living until 1930, where she died at the age of 90.
In our number 6 spot today, we have this angry bull video. This video comes from a bull taming event in southern India, and it is a very good reminder of why we probably shouldn't do this sort of thing. I won't be able to show you guys the actual video on here today because of the fact that it is likely people got injured in this situation. In this video, the bull throws its owner into the air and then runs away. The bull then charges into the stands, which are full of people, and then he turns back around and heads back onto the ground. Once he's on the ground, he absolutely charges, and there is unfortunately a person in his way who ends up getting rammed by the bull and taken for a bit of a ride. it's a pretty crazy video altogether, and while it is so insane to watch, the good news is that the injured people were taken to the nearby hospital and everyone was able to be treated and released. So that's good news. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Bangor Fort video. This video comes from a place called the Bangor Fort, which is apparently very, very haunted. This video was taken by a couple who were snooping around the place around 3 a.m. The fort is supposed to be closed to the public after 6 due to the hauntings, so I'm not exactly sure how they were able to get in, but I'm sure they regretted it pretty quickly. I'm about to show you a clip, and make sure you look closely because it happens so quickly and I do not want you to miss it.
Don't get too close, man. Get too close. Oh, no, fuck. Let's see if it's come through here. Let's see what the fuck was that. What the fuck is that? Oh, what the fuck is this, dude? Oh, what the fuck? Run, run, what the fuck was that? What the fuck?
Did you guys see that shadowy figure creep around the corner, or did you miss it? I think it's safe to say they probably didn't return to the fort anytime soon. In our number 4 spot today, we have this landslide video. This video comes from the Chamoli region in Uttarakhand and shows a landslide as it is happening in real time. Apparently, the landslide was caused by rain that would just not let up. I honestly can't believe how many people are standing around watching this happen because I would absolutely be out of there as quickly as I possibly could. This happened in July of 2020, like 2020 needed to be worse in any way. There were other landslides that occurred around the same time in the same area, but luckily this one did not cause any injuries. It did, however, block the road until it was safe and able to be cleared. In our number 3 spot today, we have this pillow fire video. This video is one of the most insane I have ever seen, but it has a good ending, thank goodness. A security guard was asleep one night and there is a security camera that is pointed to where he was resting. At the beginning of the video, as he is fast asleep, we see a stranger come up to his bed and actually set it on fire. Like, who does that? The stranger, of course, then leaves and the fire continues burning without the sleeping man knowing the danger that he is in. Another man sees the fire and comes to the rescue. He wakes the sleeping man up before the fire gets too big and most likely actually saved his life. The fire burns for an entire 2 minutes before the man comes to the rescue, and it honestly had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. The guard ended up being totally okay, which is the best news ever, and they were able to catch the man who lit the fire, which is obviously very good news. In our number 2 spot today, we have this ghost bike video. This video was captured on a surveillance camera and shows something that I just truly can't explain. It doesn't seem like anyone is around, but there are a few bikes in the shot. But, of course, out of nowhere, one of the bikes decides to take a little ride on its own. This really is one of those things that, while it's pretty harmless, is just so spooky because how does that even happen? I am so glad it was caught on camera, or else the person who owned the bike probably would have been very confused as to what happened. Well, I guess even with the camera footage, they are probably still confused because I certainly am. In our number 1 spot today, we have this locust video. This video is the most upsetting to me on this list today because it absolutely grosses me out. This video comes from a village in the Chadapur district and it shows just how bad the locust situation was there. This may seem like it's not a big deal, but that just isn't true. While just being so gross, locusts have been devastating to human habitats ever since ancient Egyptian times. Locusts are able to consume their own body weight in food every day, and they are able to reproduce extremely quickly, which will then create swarms. A swarm the size of 1 kilometer will contain 40 million locusts, which will eat the amount of food in a day that 35,000 people eat. This is devastating for humans as they consume the food that we need to survive, and they do it very fast.
Coming in at number number 10 is the secret crematorium. In 1987, it was discovered that a ceramic place was secretly used as a crematorium, which is illegal, by the way. How was it discovered? Well, a man called in to complain about the smell and said, "Don't tell me they're not burning bodies. I was at the ovens in Auschwitz." Yep, he survived being in a concentration camp and recognized the smell, which I can't even begin to imagine how traumatizing that would be. The firm Oscar Ceramics belonged to David Sconsi, who owned the Pasadena crematorium, which closed after its roof was destroyed by fire. Oscar Ceramics was then closed by Hesperia Fire District officials after neighbors in the area complained of a putrid odor coming from the building. Inside, officials found 2 kilns that contained partially burned human remains, according to Assistant Fire Chief Will Wentworth. They weren't totally cremated when we shut the kilns down and opened them up. The State Attorney General office was investigating it, claiming the ceramics place has done nothing but cremate corpses, including 950 pounds of unidentified body parts from the August 31st Creditos air disaster since it opened. Yeah, that is horrifying. Number 9. Visitor in the attic. In 2012, a single mother of 5 named Tracy found a man living in her attic. She heard banging in her attic and thought it was an animal, but when she sent her older sons and nephew to check, they found a man that she had broken up with 12 years ago sleeping in her heating unit at her home in Rock Hill, Charlotte. Tracy said his addiction to drugs and offenses for robbery, including her own truck, meant that she was not interested in him, resulting in her breaking up with him a good 12 years ago. Talking about the night she discovered the man in her house, she said she had a feeling something wasn't right. Then she said she heard a thump coming from the ceiling and noticed things coming loose from the ceiling. She said, "Then all the nails just popped out of the ceiling over my bed like bing bing bing. I thought there was some poltergeist stuff going on." That's when she sent the men in her home to check out the attic. They found a man. He had packed all the old coats and jackets into the heating unit and was sleeping in the heating unit, she said, adding that the man ran downstairs and out of the house before police could get there. Officers said they found a number of sonic cups filled with feces and urine in the attic. Now, the only entrance to the attic is inside the home in the hall that connects her son's and daughter's bedrooms. Yeah, if I found out that someone was living in my attic, I would freak out. I think I'd prefer it to be a ghost. Number 8. Body in freezer. In 2015, a crew from the 36th District Court went inside Michelle Blair's apartment and began taking out the furniture when they found bodies in her deep freezer. Located in the living room, the freezer contained the bodies of her daughter and one of her sons. On being questioned of the crime, she said that they were turning into demons, so she decided to end their lives and that she would do it again. During the trial, she had many outbursts yelling "F you," and everybody wanted to know, yes, I ended her life, when speaking about her daughter. While she was in court, Michelle said, "I don't care what anybody thinks, she had to go, period." Michelle was convicted of first-degree homicide and sentenced to life imprisonment in June 2015. Currently, she is serving her sentence at the Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Pittsfield Township, Michigan. Now, as per reports, Michelle has accumulated around 28 misconducts by March 2017. Because of her conduct, she was then sentenced to an additional 38 months to 5 years. Number 7. Restaurant front. In 2019, 5 people were under arrest in connection with a ring run out of the back of the original Nancy's Seafood and Oriental Market in Savannah, Georgia. According to law enforcement, the more was 4 pounds of a certain green plant you can smoke, 100 THC vape pens, a crystal substance, and cash. All of it was served up from the inside, shocking other business owners. Not something we'd expect, said Edwin Smith, owner of Crossroads Pawn and Sales. His store is right across the street from Nancy's. He said he didn't know drug sales, but he did know that the food was very popular. Now, the investigation into what was going on behind the counter started in Bullitt County, where law enforcement thought coming from Chatham County. The trail led right to the restaurant. In some cases, people were going to the very back of the restaurant, so the general public was not made aware, said Gene Harley, assistant director of Chatham-Savannah Counter Narcotics team. He says the investigation started and ended in a few days. The owner and family members were arrested, taking down a major part in a cross-country drug ring. There were lots of people who were utilizing that solely to obtain their narcotics, so it was a distribution hub, Harley said. In our number 6 spot, This photo comes from what is left of the Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. This prison used to be the most famous and the most expensive in the world, but now this is the sort of thing that is left of it. This prison is actually now used as a tourist attraction, and it becomes a haunted house during Halloween. The prison used to house some pretty high-profile prisoners, such as Scarface himself, Al Capone. The prison was opened in 1829 and was known for its advanced technology for the time. Things like central heating, flush toilets, and shower baths in each cell. These were all considered luxuries in 1829. The first prisoner to be held there was Charles Williams, who was facing a 2-year sentence for theft. When he arrived at the prison, he had a hood over his head so as to protect his identity, but also so that he wouldn't know what the rest of the prison looked like, so he would be unable to plan an escape. While prison is never good, the craziest thing about this specific one is that all the prisoners lived in isolation. I can't even imagine what that would be like, especially for the people who found themselves in there for long periods of time. Number 5. This photo is a series of self-portraits by the artist William Uttermohlen. In 1995, William was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, which is an incredibly difficult thing to have to go through. William's self-portraits obviously reflect a lot of what was going on in his mind during some of the last years of his life. Part of what Alzheimer's does is that it affects the part of the brain that we use for visualizing things, which is part of the reasons why the paintings began to get so different from the original. This series of paintings is actually sometimes used as a study material for medical students because it does such a wonderful job at portraying something that a person without Alzheimer's wouldn't be able to understand. I think William left the world with something very sad, but also beautiful, poignant, and important. Number 4. This photo comes from the 19th century from the Third Plague pandemic. This was the first time that the plague had spread to all 5 continents. While we now know something about what that might have been like, what we haven't had to endure are doctors that are dressed like this. This is a photo of the outfits and masks that plague doctors wore when they would come to your house to treat or diagnose you. The long beak-like noses of the masks are very creepy, but they were used to hold herbs and other nicely scented things because they believed that this would help ward off the bad air, which at the time is what they thought was causing the sickness. The COVID-19 pandemic has been bad enough, so I'm very glad that our doctors and nurses can stick to their scrubs and regular masks. There's something about these outfits that just make it seem like something bad is about to happen. Number 3. This photo looks like a big lump of nothing, but it is called an elephant's foot. Don't worry, at first I was worried, but it has nothing to do with elephants and is only named that because of its appearance. This lump was actually created from the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown and is just a mass of corium and other materials that were in the core of the reactor. This elephant's foot was located in the steam distribution corridor, which is under what's left of the reactor. While this mass doesn't produce as much radiation as it did before, it does still produce a deadly amount, but it is said that if you stood in front of it for just 300 seconds, that would be enough to get a lethal dose of radiation. It's kind of crazy that even though they knew this, they were still standing there taking pictures of it, but I'm glad because now we get to see it and it gives us just a little more insight into what happened that day. Number 2. This photo is of a man named Chris McCandless, who may be better known as Alex Supertramp. Chris was a traveler who inspired the book and movie Into the Wild, which were created to follow the story of his life, and more specifically his final great Alaskan adventure. This photo is unfortunately the last photo taken of Chris while he was on this Alaskan trip, and he ended up passing away in the wilderness. A lot of people have speculated that this photo was taken as his sort of goodbye. It is highly debated how he died, so there isn't quite a concrete answer of what exactly happened to him. It is a very unfortunate end to such a young man's life, but he left quite a legacy. His story has inspired countless people and holds a special place in a lot of people's lives. He was a man who rejected conformity and materialism, and with his life and death he really left an important message for all of us to take a step back and remember what is really important. While the story has such a sad ending, there's also a lot of beautiful things that we can take from it. And in our number 1 spot today, this photo was taken by Fred Blackwell on May 28th, 1963, and is actually showing us a moment of protest. The 3 sitting at the counter are Joan Trumpour, Anne Moody, and their sociology teacher, John Salter. The reason why this photo is so important is because these 3 are sitting at a white-only counter at Woolworth's Five and Dime store in Jackson, Mississippi, while being assaulted by an angry mob. People are throwing condiments at them and I'm sure saying some pretty nasty things, days. The two students went to Tougaloo College, which was a black college that ended up being at the core of the civil rights movement in Mississippi. It's amazing to see how brave they are, and a photo like this really is such an important message for us to remember today. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the royal family. The royal family has certainly had their fair share of drama this year so far, but that is not necessarily news to most people. Over the course of 18 months, from 1968 to 1969, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip allowed film crews to come in and follow their daily lives to create some sort of royal family documentary. Of course, the content of this documentary was heavily monitored by the royal family and those who deal with their public image, so the documentary itself didn't contain anything extremely dark or surprising. This documentary aired on BBC One in June of 1969, but ended up being banned by the Queen in 1972. The reason was apparently because they believed the film was in danger of killing off the monarchy, whatever that means. They explained that they felt like if they did things like this too often, that it would cheapen them by letting the magic seep out, and that people would just want to know more and more and more. I can see this point of view, but I also feel like there might be something a little more sinister going on here, especially considering everything that we do know. At the end of the day, this documentary is now actually on YouTube if you would like to and choose to go and view it.
In our 9th spot, we have The Men Who Killed Kennedy. And guys, here's your little friendly reminder to hit that thumbs up button because it really helps us out. This is a video documentary series that discusses the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. It was created by British television network ITV. All 9 episodes of this documentary originally aired on the Discovery Channel. Now, any documentary dealing with death and assassinations are going to be dark. This wasn't a lighthearted docuseries, but not the entire series was banned, just the last 3 episodes that aired in 2003. Those 3 episodes were eventually pulled and are banned from ever airing again. This is due to the fact that they were way too controversial. In the final episode, it suggested that Lyndon D. Johnson, the US vice president at the time of the assassination, had something to do with his death. In the end, it was declared that the documentary was not credible and the documentary should have never aired. And they promised that they would not show those episodes again. So in this sense, it wasn't banned because it was too graphic, but because it was too controversial.
In our number 8 spot today, we have the Yes Men Fix the World. The Yes Men are a pair of activists who have a goal to raise awareness about different social and political issues. The way they go about this, however, has been highly controversial as they create films in which they impersonate people they dislike in an act that they call identity correction. In 2009, their second documentary titled The Yes Men Fix the World came out, which was the sequel to the 2003 film entitled The Yes Men. In this HBO documentary, the pair stir up controversy surrounding a few different issues, such as exposing the people who were profiting off of Hurricane Katrina, or the people who were behind the environmental disaster in Bhopal. It's not necessarily the things that they are fighting against that make people believe they're controversial, but more so the mission statement that the two share, which is that lies can expose the truth. The film, of course, has still managed to survive on past this lawsuit though, and despite being banned from release, there was a special edition of the movie that was released through good old BitTorrent.
In our 7th spot, we have Capturing the Friedmans. This HBO documentary filmed by Andrew Jarecki was released in 2003. Initially, it was meant to be a short film about children's birthday party entertainers in New York. It was titled Just a Clown. But while filming, he made a shocking discovery that completely made him shift gears. So while filming, a man named David Friedman, who was a very popular clown, he learned that David's brother Jesse and his father Arnold were guilty of some very bad things to young individuals. It started back in 1987 when the US Postal Service intercepted a magazine of explicit images of young people. It was making its way over to the Friedman's house. That's when police investigated Jesse and Arnold. The two were then given a stay-at-home order while preparing for court, and they decided to document what was going on. So they had a number of tapes that captured family dinners, private conversations, and arguments, etc. The documentary shows these home videos and follows the two Friedman men. Due to the film's content though, this documentary was banned in a couple of countries.
Number 6. School Fight Club. A teacher in Florida has been arrested for allegedly organizing student fights in her classroom. Yep, a place where you're supposed to learn turned into a fighting ring. Angel Footman watched on from behind her desk as students of Griffin Middle School attacked each other senselessly and even asked them to not record the fight or attract attention by screaming. She has been slapped with 4 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Now, Angel has denied organizing fights but acknowledged failing to report them. But footage released of these fights showed her laying down the rules of engagement, telling participants not to pull hair and to limit their clashes to 30 seconds each, the outlet reported. Number 5. Campsite. 7.5 months after the Cowden family was reported missing in 1974, police found their bodies. The Cowdens had gone camping in the Siskiyou Mountains in Applegate, Oregon over Labor Day weekend in 1974, but failed to show up for dinner at Richard Cowan's mother's house on September 1st. The media accounts from the time described their campsite as undisturbed, as if the family left abruptly. Investigators later postulated that they had been abducted. Then, their bodies were discovered in April 1975, about 100 feet from the campsite. Richard's body was found tied to a tree, while the bodies of his wife, son, and daughter were found in a cave with rocks sealing the entrance. Dwayne Lee Little, a criminal serving 2 life sentences, allegedly confessed to a fellow inmate that he ended the lives of the Cowdens family while on parole, but there was no conviction and the case remains open. Number 4. Under the bed. Sometimes when you're young, you want your parents to check under your bed for something scary. While something evil under your bed is just an urban legend, this gruesome story actually happened to a couple from as far back as 1982. Now, there were 3 criminals in New Jersey who thought they had a good scam going. They'd steal cars and sell them, but 2 of the 3 got suspicious regarding the third, Gary Smith. Now, all 3 rented a motel room in New Bergen, New Jersey and ordered some food. The 2 men laced the unwitting Gary's burger with cyanide, and after a few bites, Gary began to succumb to the poison and died. The pair then stuffed the dead man's corpse under the bed and left. It was found days later by the 4th couple who rented the room. His body was bloated and discolored after a few nights in between the mattress and the frame in a heated room. Number 3. Severed feet. British Columbia, Canada is home to one of the most gruesome and baffling discoveries within the past few decades. Since 2007, at least 16 severed human feet and running shoes have been found on its shores, from Jedediah Island to Barnacle Beach. Although some of the feet have been identified, it is still unknown why the feet were detached and how they got in the sea. The latest solved case involving a human foot was completed in 2019 for a foot discovered in 2018. In September of that year, a left foot was found inside a blue sock and light gray Nike running shoe. The shoe and foot matched information police had in a missing person report from 2018. The family of that missing person was contacted and provided samples for DNA testing, which matched the DNA samples from the foot. Now, since then, there have been other feet found, as one was found in 2021 and one was found in July of this year. Now, if I came across a severed foot on a beach, I would absolutely freak out. Number 2. Mouse in food. Health and safety is really important in the food industry, but it seems like a Subway in Lincoln City, Oregon didn't really care, as customers may have unknowingly been eating spinach tainted by a dead rodent. Yep, you heard that right. Matt Jones, who discovered the dead animal in his friend Jay's sandwich, took a photo of it. His first reaction was to laugh because he was in utter disbelief about what was in front of him, but his friend, on the other hand, was obviously revolted at the sight. According to the staff of the establishment, Jay wanted some spinach on his sandwich. The employee who prepared the food scooped the last bit of spinach out of the batch and slapped it onto the sandwich. Now, that scoop contained the rodent. This means that everyone who ate spinach from that batch came into contact with food contaminated by a dead animal. The state health department said that the episode didn't put anyone in danger of becoming sick, but it sure did make an impact on the business's name. Health inspectors had consulted with physicians about the circumstances and concluded that the risk of becoming sick would be very low. I would never eat there again if that happened to me. And coming at number 1 is the dolls. Anatoly Moskvin is a Russian former journalist, college professor, and self-dubbed necropoliist with expert knowledge of cemeteries. Now this man was a little strange as he loved collecting dolls. He had many and the figures had resembled antique dolls. Some wore knee-high boots, others had makeup on their faces Anatoly had covered in fabric. He also had hidden their hands in fabric, except these were not dolls. They were mummified corpses of human girls. Yeah, real dead bodies. He was obsessed with digging up the dead and making dolls out of their corpses. After making his human dolls, he kept them in his home as his companions and lovers. I kissed her once, then again, Anatoly wrote about one of his dolls. Police finally caught up to him in 2011 after years of increasing suspicion at the growing number of desecrated graves in his home city. When the police arrived at his home, they found 26 life-size dolls, or rather mummified corpses, scattered throughout. When police moved one of the bodies, it played music as if on cue. Inside the chests of many of the dolls, Anatoly had embedded music boxes. Now there were also photographs and plaques taken off the gravestone, doll making manuals, and maps of local cemeteries strewn about the apartment. Now this is just overall extremely disturbing. I just can't.
Starting up this list in our number 10 spot. Okay, so at the beginning of this video, while nothing super creepy happens, the whole vibe of the video is just unsettling. There's like some sort of puppet looking doll who seems like maybe they're hosting a children's show. They ask if you would like to sing with them and then they begin singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which should just be harmless, right?
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. Please do come again.
After the song ends and the screen fades to black, the exact same sequence repeats. The screen then fades to black again, and the sequence begins again, but this time the puppet has no eyes and ends up not singing the song at all, but just looking creepy with its no eyes.
Oh, hi. Sure is dark out. Would you want to sing with me?
We then hear some sort of alarm sound as a strange sort of photograph barely comes across the screen. If this wasn't enough, to end off the video, we just see the puppet's head floating with an extremely disturbing smile on its face. The audio is a little distorted, but it's telling some weird story about their dad and them asking for a toy, but their dad says no.
Can I have a toy? No. He says, you are a bad boy.
All in all, I have no idea what is going on in this video, but I feel like I might be cursed after watching it. Moving on to number 9. This video comes from someone who took a video searching around a place called Satan's Bridge. But before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. It begins with someone showing a bunch of animal carcasses, which obviously I'm not going to show here, that have just been left around from possible sacrifice ceremonies that may have taken place in this area. He continues to search the place and ended up recording some footage that I think does an amazing job at capturing the uncomfortable feeling that this place holds. I wish I could know all of the stories that this bridge holds, but I feel like it may be for the best that they remain hidden. The guy filming finds some more evidence of things that could point to satanic rituals being held, and honestly, I'm impressed that he was able to stick around exploring for so long, because I would have been out of there immediately. Moving on in our number 8 spot. The people who posted this video explained that they received coordinates on the dark web. When they traveled to the coordinates, they found this tape that we're going to be talking about, as well as a collection of other things, all said to belong to a killer. I feel like this tape would have still been creepy without knowing the backstory, but it is 1,000 times creepier having those details. The video is fairly long, and while not a lot happens in it, there's certainly something sinister going on. It is basically just a video of a guy digging a hole with a shovel. We hear him in his car as he arrives at the location, we hear him digging, and you can even see him pick up an object wrapped in a black garbage bag and put it into the hole.
You can't really see him. In fact, you can't see much, but there's definitely enough to know what is going on. All I have to say is I really hope that this video is fake. Moving on to number 7. You guys, I'm not gonna lie, I have absolutely no idea what is going on in this video, and I don't even know if I want to find out. First, it starts off with another puppet named Sophia, and then suddenly cuts to this creepy masked figure. What was that? Again, I have no idea. We then cut to some blurred out creepy clown face that is calling for someone named Macy, and honestly, I hope Macy runs in the opposite direction.
Macy! I order you to come here right now!
The video then cuts to what looks like a tied up clown with more creepy dialogue, and then cuts back to the clown face from before, but is more visible this time. In the end, it cuts back to Sophia, and she asks if we want to sing a song with her, and then that's the end. Honestly, I was happy to reach the end of this video because it had me very creeped out. In our number 6 spot today, we have Earthlings. Earthlings was a film made in 2005 and was a documentary that focused on the way that humanity uses animals. It was definitely meant to shed a negative light on the day-to-day practices of some of the largest industries in the world that all heavily rely on animals. The footage for the film was largely captured using hidden cameras. This documentary first became controversial not because of the conversation it sparks, but because of how gruesome some of the footage was, particularly the footage from puppy mills. I honestly wouldn't even recommend viewing this footage and would much prefer a different way of educating on the horrors of these things because it really is just terrible. People were also upset because they thought that the film's director was just trying to push a vegan lifestyle on others by using scare tactics, but I'm not quite sure that this was the goal of the film at all. The film saw more controversy just last year when a Ukrainian man named Maxim Kryvosh held a bus with 13 passengers hostage and demanded, along with other things, that the president of Ukraine make a statement saying that watching the film Earthlings was recommended viewing for everyone. The president did end up releasing this statement, and thankfully all of the hostages were released without any incident, and the president's recommendation was then deleted. After this, Earthlings director did also make a statement regarding the situation, explaining that it does not endorse or condone acts of terror, and that its message is one of compassion for all beings.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with The Act of Killing. This is a 2012 documentary about the group of people who committed a bunch of murders in 1965 to 1966 as part of the Indonesian genocide. However, the film mainly centers around one of the murderers, Anwar Congo. It is said that he took the lives of 1,000 people. What made this documentary so controversial and disturbing is the fact that the film had Anwar Congo recreate some of his murders. People said in a way it was romanticizing death and violence. I mean, this dude talked in detail about the murders, like saying his preferred method of killing was to use a wire and then strangle his victims. To him, this was a neater way to kill. In the end, the Indonesian government did not like this film, saying it showcased a misleading portrayal of Indonesia.
In our number 4 spot today, we have The Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco is a hugely popular tourist destination, but it is also one of the most popular spots in the whole world where people will go to take their own lives. When the filmmaker Eric Steele heard about this extremely sad statistic, he decided he wanted to make The Bridge, in which he would attempt to figure out why this was the most popular spot, but also he wanted to show people attempting or even succeeding with this action so that he could show that basically nothing is being done to try and prevent this from happening. This documentary quickly became very controversial because there were many people who believed that the film was glorifying this action, despite that most definitely not being the film's intention. People felt as though the film turned this into entertainment and normalized the action. There was also some drama between Eric and the members of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area Agency, who said that Eric didn't disclose his true intentions when he applied for a filming permit, but in the grand scheme of what this film is about, I think that this is the last thing that anyone should be worried about.
Moving on to number 3, we have Zoo. Okay, where do I begin with this one? So basically, this whole documentary surrounds the death of Kenneth Pinyan, a man that passed away in 2005 after engaging in sexual activities with a horse. But that's not the disturbing part. The worst part is apparently the documentary tries to justify this man's actions, and it defends him, saying basically love is love, whether that's a love for another human or for an animal. An actual review said, and I quote, "The documentary spent too much effort trying to defend these actions rather than documenting what actually happened. I thought the point of documentary filmmaking was to be objective and neutral on the subject and to present the evidence and let the audience make up their own minds." So do I even have to explain why this documentary was banned in certain places? I mean, hello, it's a fairly controversial and disgusting topic.
In our number 2 spot today, we have Titicut Follies. Different films get banned for a multitude of reasons, which usually comes down to the topics being controversial or up for debate, but this specific documentary was banned because of the fact that it was just absolutely horrifying to every audience. This extremely important but upsetting documentary was made in 1964 and explored the life inside the Bridgewater State Hospital for the criminally insane. As you can imagine, life for the people living inside of this hospital was terrible, and this documentary did not hold back on shining the light. It showed the neglect that the inmates faced from their caretakers, as well as even more horrible things that they had to endure. This film was originally banned because some people believed they needed to protect the identity of the people portrayed in the film, which I understand, but that does seem kind of backwards and like it would only be benefiting the people who desperately needed to be exposed. In 1991, however, the ban on this film was lifted and people were able to see the reality that many people at this hospital faced every day.
And in our number 1 spot, we have Faces of Death. This film is banned in 40+ countries. That's just how gruesome it actually is. In 1978, this documentary was released and people were horrified at how graphic it was. The film contained real footage of dead or dying humans and animals. In one scene, you see a body being sliced open in an autopsy. Another scene shows a man being electrocuted. And in another, you see a monkey get beat to death by a hammer. Yeah, they showed all that and more in this film. It's basically like they collected the most disturbing real-life footages from all over the world and compiled them together for this film. As a result of its very graphic content, the movie was banned in 40+ countries.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have Punishment. This is a very strange video uploaded in 2017. It's unlisted, meaning it can't be found by searching for it. You already have to have the link to even see it. The title and the description are a jumble of letters and numbers, and the video itself sounds like this. That's creepy on its own, and then it gets even weirder. Some Reddit users realized that the title and the description were actually written in a rotation code. That means that all the letters have been kind of pushed along the alphabet in the same amount. In this case, the number was 8. They then reversed this and found the true message. It reads, "The sacrifice of Henry Lesser and Igor. Red, repressed the memories of trauma with drugs. Blue, militaristic training and decimation of the Ming. Green, denial of events and atrocities committed against them. Yellow, personas compartmentalized. Pink, core personality entirely destroyed."
Blue, your trigger is Spider-Man.
The title was also translated to Punishment. Also, during the video, there is a code that appears on the screen which translates to "Spider-Man and Elsa are your friends." Now, this has led many to think that the video is some sort of subliminal message linked to the whole Spider-Man and Elsa conspiracy on YouTube. That's honestly a topic for a whole other video. We don't have time today, but you guys should go and research it if you're interested in this so far. Next up at number 9 now, we have 11BX1371. That's the name of this very bizarre video that spread online in early 2015. Here's a segment from it. The black and white part is 2 minutes in length. It features a person wearing a plague doctor costume in a rundown building in a forest. They hold up a hand with an irregular blinking light. One of the most noticeable things about this video is the continuous buzzing sound that can be heard in the background. Some reported that it sounded like someone was repeatedly saying, "I would love to kill you." One Reddit user created a spectrogram of the sound and found both text and images concealed within it. One part simply said, "You are already dead." The images depicted women being mutilated and tortured, leading people to think that this was actually the work of a serial killer. These fears seem to be confirmed when later research found still images from the horror film The Bunny Game, another one from the German film Slasher, and also a picture of a victim of the Boston Strangler. In the years since its discovery, people have continued to try and decode the video and discover its meaning. If you look this one up for yourself, you can find much more about it. Some of it is too dark to even mention in this video. And that's me saying that. Moving on to number 8 now, we have Rubber Johnny. This video was originally uploaded in 2005 and began circulating in emails before appearing on YouTube. The video claims to document Johnny, a 16-year-old inbred mutant who has been locked up in a pitch black basement by his ashamed parents. Other than Johnny, the only living thing we see in the basement is his dog. The video shows Johnny descending into a kind of madness. It eventually morphs into this creepy drum and bass video that seems to get weirder with every second. Next up at number 7 now, we have Daisy Unwinds. This is a very disturbing video uploaded to YouTube in 2015. It's actually part of a series of videos, all with the name Daisy in their title. The videos were removed from YouTube, but some people had already downloaded a few to upload later, and this is one of them. In this video, we see a body bag laying in a bathtub. A masked man feeds the body bag with a spoon from a bowl. Backwards music plays as well. At 41 seconds in, the man starts banging his head. A split second later, we see a message on the screen. Redditors piece together the words to find that it's part of a poem about death. The video has raised more questions than answers. What does it all mean? Who exactly uploaded it? And perhaps most disturbingly, is that body bag real?
Moving on to number 6. This video was apparently filmed in 1988 and was found in a scary abandoned log cabin deep in a forest in Poland a few decades later. The footage shows whoever is operating the camera walking around filming the log cabin. They end up getting to an open window and are kind of focused on it and studying it, when all of a sudden, out of the blue, it just snaps shut. At the same time, a paranormal sounding yell can be heard, but no one is around and the camera goes blank. I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but I would have been out of the cabin as fast as I could possibly go. Moving on to number 5. This video comes from 2001 and shows a group of teenagers who are trying to summon a spirit while of course recording it for the camera. They start in a circle all holding hands with their eyes closed and one of their friends in the center of the circle. They're trying to get the spirit to contact them through the friend that's in the middle, but things start to go awry when one of the friends holding hands in the circle collapses.
Então, ai caraças, destino. Destino.
At first his friends think that he's just playing around with them, but then he starts convulsing and everyone gets extremely freaked out. After he gets up from the floor, he is not only acting scary, but his posture has certainly changed, and everyone else who is there is rightfully extremely scared.
Espíritos prontos.
Sustino. Ó, Sustino, caralho, foda-se.
Céu,
Opa, não lhe toque, caraças, diz. Olha as costas dele, meu. Olha as costas dele.
The video shows the rest of the boys being super frightened by their now possessed friend's scary behavior, and they're just trying to figure out what to do.
Até olha, Nelson, desculpa lá, meu filho não pode ser pela estrada, deixas aqui o André e o Céu. A gente volta, né? Eu não tenho coragem de ir à procura deles agora com o Fox, né, Gabriel? Eles são meus irmãos, gosto bem deles. Mas fica de dia, pá.
By the end of the video, their real friend has luckily come back to them, but he doesn't remember anything that happened to him. Moving on to number 4. This footage comes from Paraguay. It was taken on a camcorder that had some spots filmed over by other family members. The audio and the video ended up getting blended and corrupted and just left us with this footage that looks like it could be straight out of a horror movie. Because it's so messed up, I really don't know what is going on, but I'll show you some of the video so that you can see what I mean. I don't know why, but that one kid who looks like they're sitting on top of a roof really freaks me out. Coming in at number 3. This video was posted to TikTok by a user named Sarah Turney. I've spoken about Sarah in another video of mine and how she used TikTok to help her close the case of her sister's disappearance. When Sarah was young, her sister Alyssa went missing and no one was ever charged with the crime, but Sarah always knew it was her dad and set out to prove it and have him charged so that she could bring justice for her sister. Sarah released some VHS footage on TikTok that ended up going absolutely viral. Apparently her dad would follow Alyssa around and film her, and later they found out that he had cameras hidden in their house, which is just very bizarre behavior. This video is one of many that Sarah posted on TikTok and shows when her dad followed Alyssa to her fast food job and was sitting in the parking lot filming her. While this video is super creepy on its own, since it's very obvious that she doesn't want to be filmed, it's even more creepy considering all we know now. Luckily, Sarah's TikToks worked. Near the end of 2020, her dad actually ended up being arrested and charged with the disappearance and presumed death of Alyssa, which is a huge win for Sarah. Moving on to number 2. This VHS tape was found at an estate sale that was being held in a barn. The person who uploaded this tape found them among the 10 boxes that they had purchased, among other things such as records, rusted tools, and old paint cans. This video shows someone walking through some sort of mildly wooded area in the daytime, which, okay, yeah, fine. But then it cuts to a night scene and it just really leaves me with an uncomfortable feeling. Absolutely no idea what the white thing being dragged is, but I absolutely do not want to find out. Moving on to our number 1 spot. This video was found under a bridge in Russia. It shows what sounds like a teenager filming the video while riding his bike up to the underside of this bridge. A very strange noise can be heard as he is approaching. This brave soul continues to stick around and investigate the sound further before something pretty scary happens.
Слышите? Ёпта. Сука. Что? Ты кто это? Кто это? Кто это?
I don't know what that sound was or what happened to that boy, but I really hope he made it out of there because that video did not end well.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Raichur ghost. This video comes from Raichur and shows a group of people who are standing outside and it looks like eating something. They are so focused on what they are doing and the camera person that they don't even realize it, but some sort of ghostly figure passes by them really quickly. It's nice to know that this must have been a more friendly ghost since it really didn't pay them much attention, but it definitely creeped me out to know that maybe ghosts have been around me and I had absolutely no idea. That ghost was honestly so quick, I am not even sure that the person filming noticed it. Coming Coming in at number 9, we have the Guwahati Sandstorm. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. This video was taken in Guwahati, which is in the East Indian state of Assam. The video shows the dust as it is approaching and engulfing the entire city. I've honestly never seen a sandstorm in real life before, so I had no idea that this is what it looked like, and it truly is terrifying. I can't imagine how frightening it would be to see it approaching and just know that there really isn't anything that you could do about it. Apparently this storm damaged buildings and houses, as well as uprooted electrical poles and trees, and left residents without power for hours. In our number 8 spot today, we have this captured creature video. This video seems to be of some sort of creepy creature that had been captured somewhere in India. The creature appears to be short and has long hair with a witch-like face. This one might be fake, but it is still so unsettling. The creature is chained up, which definitely makes me feel a little bit more safe. At one point, the creature sticks its arm out and is reaching for something, and it honestly gives me the creeps every time I watch it. All in all, I think I'll definitely be staying away from whatever this is. In our number 7 spot today, we have this classroom ghost. This video comes from the TikTok user Kelvin_Stera, and it seems like it takes place in some kind of a classroom, but before the school day has started, as the desks have their chairs turned upside down on them. One person walks into the room, grabs a chair off the desk, and sits down. He's the only one in the room, and he just sits there on his phone, presumably waiting for other students to arrive, when something strange happens. This is in the morning since school hasn't started yet, that definitely would be one way to wake up. I truly cannot blame him for just getting out of there. School is already bad enough without ghosts being involved.
Moving on to number 6 now, we have Sad Satan. This is a video from 2015 that appears to show a game from the deep web known as Sad Satan. The uploader claims to have found it on a deep web forum. The file was signed only with the initials ZK. The file showed no signs of malware, and so the uploader played it. This is the recording that he took of the game. Pretty eerie. Most of the game features the player just walking down these dark hallways with sort of creepy psychedelic sounds being played, accompanied with the player's footsteps. This pattern seems to go on for a long time, interrupted only by strange black and white photos towards the end of the video. The audio also starts to include a loud rumble with what sounds like voices slowed down. Further on, we see that the maze is full of childlike creatures. Occasionally a white screen will flash up with a message written in wingdings. A Reddit user translated them to find messages such as "I can track you, kill, kill and kill again, you are on my list, hail 666 and sad people died." The uploader eventually deleted the whole game off his computer, leaving the internet still trying to decipher its dark messages. Next up at number 5 now, we have Dining Room or There Is Nothing. This video has been around almost as long as YouTube itself has existed. It was uploaded in 2006 and has been freaking people out ever since then. The woman stares at the camera with a blank face and utters some gibberish words. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, she drops her face right into her own bowl. Later on in the video, she lifts her head up up and says to the camera, "There is nothing." This video is scary enough by itself, but then people realized a few things about it. The second half of the video is an exact mirror of the first, only in reverse. It's supposed to be played on a loop, going round and round for infinity. They say this video tells a story of our desire to know what happens after death. When the woman in the video falls into her bowl, she dies. She returns to utter the words, "There is nothing," as in, there is nothing after death. No heaven, no hell, no afterlife. Life and death are just an endless cycle, just like the video itself.
There is nothing.
Moving on to number 4 now, we have 16. That's the title of this unlisted video on YouTube, which has been viewed over 8,000 times. It's very disturbing, but in a way, you can't quite put your finger on why. It's from the perspective of a person watching people on a swing. A fuzzy wind sound blows in the background, along with a single monotone noise. The people in the video don't seem to be aware that they are being filmed. They walk over to some other people in the park, and then the image freezes. A strange motif sounds while this happens. At 16 seconds, a single frame shows the words, "You've met." The video then resumes for a few more seconds before ending at the 25-second mark. In the 7 years since it's been uploaded, many people have tried to discern who uploaded this, why they did it, and what that message of "you've met" really means. Honestly, part of me doesn't even want to know. Moving on to number 3 now, we have I Feel Fantastic. This is a piece of absolute nightmare fuel that I have talked about before on this channel. It was first uploaded in 2009 by Creepyblog, a channel which has not uploaded a single video since. It features a mannequin-like character known as Tara the Android, who sings a song through a voice simulator. The result is haunting, transfixing, and repulsive all at the same time. Tara the Android remains motionless throughout, but is seen in a number of different positions. One of the only big changes in shots comes when the camera snaps to an outdoor location that looks like the edge of some woods. One of the song's lyrics includes the words, "Run, run, run, run." Now, naturally, people felt there was more to this video than meets the eye. Some people believe that the creator is a murderer who killed a woman named Tara and dressed up that doll in her clothes. They say the outdoor shot is of where she was buried. This theory was strengthened when people found that the description is a cryptic reference to the Greek legend of Pygmalion. He was a sculptor that created a statue of a woman for himself because he felt that all women were tainted. Perhaps the person who made this video felt that the real Tara didn't live up to his expectations, and this doll is the first step towards bringing her back to life. Moving on to number 2 now, we have Transfiguration. This is a bizarre video posted to YouTube in 2008 by Oliver de Sagazan. It starts off fairly tame. Oliver is seen muttering some words. He then begins to cover himself in layers of material. The painting and sculpting continues for 9 minutes and begins to look more and more horrific with each layer. Oliver himself seems to be losing his mind. Some people believe there is a hidden message along the way in this video. What is this half-human, half-beast creature we see being created before us? What does it mean at the end when his mental state seems to crash and crumble with every swing of his head? Perhaps that's for you to decipher. And finally, number 1 now, we have Streetwalking. That's the name of this video, uploaded by Shay St. John. Now, if you've been around on YouTube for as long as I have, you may recognize that name. The surreal videos fascinated the original YouTube community back in 2006 and 2007. For many though, they are very creepy. Streetwalking is a notoriously weird video. Just take a look.
She is totally obsessed. She's buying her stairway to heaven.
Shay St. John has remained burned into the memories of everyone who watched this the first time round and all the other videos. The character always wears a series of wigs and dresses and has wooden hands on sticks. It's thought the character lost her arms and legs in a horrific car accident. Now, some die-hard members of the community are convinced that this Shay St. John was actually more real than people know, and the videos like this contain clues as to what dark events really went on.